Just like time and land and community, your body needs to be reframed from the position of an adversarial relationship to being an asset. I want to talk about the area of body memories. This is not widely discussed in the therapeutic community because of the laws of the land. Most massage therapists are very familiar with body memories, but they're not allowed to know anything about psychology, even though they do, and psychologists are not allowed to touch anybody that they're working with. So these two disciplines that need to shake hands and merge are miles apart. So we have a sociological reality that is a nuisance, but we can do a workaround because, after all, life is an art form, not an algebraic formula. So let me describe the problem and then explain the workarounds to you. I said earlier that when you have a dramatic event in your life, the memory is stored in both your left brain and your right brain. That is true, but it's not the whole truth. It is very likely that the memory is stored in your left brain and in your right brain and in muscle tissue somewhere in your body. Let me describe how I discovered this. I was out of town in Missouri, actually, on a seminar. House full of people, ended up at 10 o'clock at night. I was in serious neck pain because I'd flown in on a grasshopper. My neck was out, and I didn't know that I'd be able to sleep that night. So I turned to my hostess and said, hey, is there any possibility in your network of friends you've got a chiropractor that would open up this hour of night to see me? She said, no, but I've got this massage therapist. This is as good as a chiropractor. I said, okay, whatever. I'm desperate. I need some help. So this lady sets it up with the other lady. I've never met her. Go to her home. She's got a studio in the back, and I'm face down on the table. It's now 11 o'clock at night. I'm tired. I have worked. I am not tracking. She seems to be doing a good job. She's working. Stuff is releasing. The pain is subsiding. So I am almost asleep, not paying attention, not tracking, just there, zombied out. She's working down my back. Stuff is releasing in a predictable manner. She arrives at a muscle that doesn't release, and she knows that this muscle is not the result of a vertebra that's gone cattywampus, but that it is a body memory. I don't know anything about body memories. She doesn't stop to explain the theology of body memories to me or the biology of it. She just puts her hand on that particular muscle and is rubbing in a normal massage pattern, and with a very quiet voice, she blindsides me. She hasn't said anything for 20 minutes. I haven't said anything for 30 minutes. I'm zoned out. She rubs me and says, Arthur, what's stored here? And I hear a snarl come out of my mouth, the piano lessons. And all of a sudden I am fully awake and thinking, do we have some unfinished business here, Arthur? And we began to think back to the hated piano lessons. 6 kids in the family. My parents were musical. 3 kids got the musical genes. 3 of us didn't. I took piano lessons, and 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 the piano lessons never, ever took. It was not a pretty scene. I learned how to play Bill Grogan's Goat and Chopsticks, but it didn't really progress much beyond that. So there on the table, I processed that emotion. I forgave my parents for not recognizing that I wasn't musical, and I forgave my sister for being so musical it made me look awful, and I had a little chat with God about the fact that he didn't give me the musical gene. I just did all the basic cleanup that I knew how to do, and within a minute or two, that muscle relaxed. Since then, I've gone to a couple of other people and had very extensive work done as they have prowled over the musculature of my back and my legs and found all sorts of gnarly little things that have been stored there, devouring my flexibility, devouring my general well-being. And as the body memories have been released, my life has become very different. Now, releasing body memories is not a complicated thing. Broadly speaking, it requires somebody else's touch. It doesn't have to be a master masseuse. It does have to be somebody who is fairly emotionally healthy themselves and isn't packing a whole lot of twistedness in their own soul and spirit and mind. So if you're a guy and you're married, obviously your wife would be the ideal one to work. And you can go about it three ways. There are two very familiar places where body memories are stored. The first is in the crease around your shoulder blade, both sides. That is where trauma is generally stored, beginning with birth trauma. You talk to any masseuse, and they will tell you that anybody coming in, no matter what their other complaints are, really loves to have the masseuse tuck her fingers in around that curve of the shoulder blade and just rub and rub and rub. Always feels good. Nothing gets resolved. Every time they go back, they want to be rubbed there. Well, that's because so much trauma is stored there, and it's not getting released. It's just being relieved by the rubbing. So be on your back, have your wife put a little bit of lotion on her fingertips, and just reach under your back and dig the fingertips into that groove around the shoulder blade. And then when she's touching you there, simply ask the question, God, what's stored here? What do you want to show me? And whatever memory bubbles up, whether it's a peripheral thing or a major thing, you circle around that and look at the pain and ask yourself, what needs to be done to get closure here? Do I need to forgive? Do I need to reframe it? Does it look differently now than when I was 7 years old? Do I need to connect it with another memory? Do I need to speak hope over it? Do I need to talk to somebody else about it afterwards? But an awful lot can be done in your own mind in silence, not necessarily even sharing with the person that's working with you. I'd recommend going back and forth from one shoulder blade to the other, 2 or 3 days apart, just alternating. And the individuals that have done this on a consistent basis tell me it takes about a year to detox the shoulder blades. There's so much crud that happens in our life. There's so much toxicity that is stored in that groove behind the shoulder blades, so much trauma, that doing it twice a week takes about 100 sessions for the average middle-class person to relieve the amount of trauma that is stored there. It's quite amazing what a toxic waste dump it is behind your shoulder blade. The other one that is very standardized is where your belt is. If you have any sort of random low back pain that the chiropractor can't release, or he releases but it comes back very quickly, it is very likely body memories. And what is stored there is the futility caused by people's expectations. Now, let's sort this out very carefully. Expectations are normative, and expectations often help us excel. Let's talk about basic training. Your DI had some expectations of your physical ability, and you were absolutely sure in the first 2 weeks that he was going to kill you by demanding so many of the different exercises. But the reality is his expectations, his pressure, his yelling at you caused you to reach deep and to do things you didn't know you could do, and you ended basic training with a whole lot more muscle mass than you had going in. That's reality. However, when somebody creates an expectation for us that we are absolutely positively incapable of fulfilling, that brings futility. So let's look at my piano lessons. End of the day, I take piano lessons for 100 years. I might be able to play adequately as a journeyman pianist. I don't have the musical gene. I will never be this master pianist, and no amount of expectation placed on me, no amount of positive speaking, no amount of head games is going to make me into something that I'm not. One of the most foundational, destructive futility expectation cycles is gender. If mommy and daddy wanted a girl and you were a boy, there's just not a whole lot you can do in any way, shape, or form to change your gender. No matter how you work hard to perform to please them, at the end of the day, you're still not a girl. Or the other way around, they wanted a boy and got a girl. And that futility of expectations, the husband, the wife, the parent, the teacher, the coach, the sergeant, the captain, the whoever it was that placed expectations on you, the therapist at the hospital, the surgeon, wherever expectations were not rooted in reality, that tends to land in that band of muscles right under your belt. And again, most masseuses will tell you that everybody loves to be rubbed there, but no matter how much they work those muscles, you come back a week later and they want to be rubbed there again because you're not detoxing. So to put your hands there and have your wife put her hands there, work it out, rub, and you say, God, would you show me the expectation? Would you show me the futility? Who put on me something that I absolutely couldn't achieve? A huge amount of detox can be done that way. Setting aside those two, a second tool that you can use to find the toxicity is simply to ask God. I remember doing that once and then going to a massage therapist who had no clue of body memories. She knew I was weird, but didn't really want to know what my weirdness was about. She just humored me. And I was able to tell her, there's a muscle on the left-hand side below my rib cage. It's about the diameter and the length of a hot dog, and it's running at a 45-degree angle. Now, any massage therapist worth a nickel can find that muscle in a few seconds. God described it, I described it, she jumped on it, and immediately my mind was filled with, that memory. I remember that situation, I sure do. And I was able to work through it, process it, and release it. Those are two approaches that you can use at home without a professional masseuse. If you have access to somebody that is relatively clean and relatively healed, not bringing their neuroses to imprint on your body through their contagious hands, you can just go and have them go hunting. And as they work down your back, they can say, this is natural, this is not. And when they arrive at a muscle that's in spasm and has no reason to be in spasm, then you can ask the question, God, which event is stored here? Really? When I was 7 years old and broke my arm, I thought that's old history. So what's stored here? Oh, yes. That was that nasty nurse that ridiculed me because I was crying in pain when she was poking my arm. I remember that nasty nurse. Obviously, that muscle in back remembers the nasty nurse too, and you can finish your cleanup work. My point is this. God has designed our bodies to be an enormous source of energy that supports our soul. And if your body is a bundle of liability, if your body is packing a ton of body memories, number one, it's going to slow down any sort of therapeutic work you're doing. It is going to slow down establishing the pleasure center, the base camp in the front of your head, and it's certainly going to slow down your building that bridge. If you will do those 100,000 small steps, work through gradually, patiently, regularly, detoxing your body is then able to serve you by bringing the energy of the body to supplement the energy of your soul when you're having to face some difficult challenges. It may well be a liability at present because it's pulling you down with the body memories, but long term, it could become a great asset if your body is robust, relieved of all that baggage, able to supplement your soul, your brain, your mind, and all the rest of this process when you're going through the hard times.